class, this is your instructor Megan, and this video is not required for this course, but I wanted to introduce a concept to you in this video that I think will be really helpful for you as you complete the courses in the digital media minor. As you may have noticed if you've already started the course, in the digital media minor, in most of the classes, you're going to be conducting reading on your own, and then you'll need to pull information from those readings and create learning documents or create lists of definitions that you might have to study for a quiz. My job as an instructor is not to give you the answers to everything in a really simple, easy to read way. It's not for me to sort of give you an answer key. It's for me to give you resources, to give you readings written by people who work in the industry you're studying, to give you research studies, to give you seminal textbooks about what you're learning about. And your work as a student is to analyze those readings and analyze those resources and understand the comparisons and the contrast between them. Understand what those readings, textbooks, experts, etc. are arguing, or the research they present, and then think about that critically and think about what most people in the industry draw, what conclusion most people in the industry draw from that, and what differing viewpoints exist. So there's a lot of burden on you as a student to think, to do critical thinking in these classes. The cognitive burden is on you, and of course if you are ever stuck, if you're not sure about a concept, you don't understand a word's definition as presented in the text, you're certainly always invited to contact me, and I encourage you to do so. Whether you want to email me or set up a time to have a quick conversation about it, that's what I'm here for. The materials are for you to look through and come up with a concept of, but if you're struggling, that's my job, is to help you get through that, to answer the questions that you have and guide you toward creating your own critical thinking and critical understanding of these texts. So in order for you to get the most out of the readings, I suggest conducting what's called concept mapping. And in this presentation, I'll talk about the what, why, and how of this map-based note-taking technique. So first, let's look at a concept map. What is a concept map? Well, they're just simple diagrams showing how concepts are related. So here's an example from the ICOM 201 Web Design and Usability course. I just sketched up as an example of a concept map the first week of the class. So the first week includes a couple readings that talk about considerations for web design. One of the readings is called 9 Basic Principles for Website Design. Another is called 10 Basic Principles for Website Design. So what I did is I started here in the center and I just made a bubble that says Week 1 Web Design, and I started reading the first, and it had 9 suggestions. And one of those suggestions was basic principles. So you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 elements of that. And then I think spacing and navigation might have been the other ones that went with that reading. Then I did the next reading and I found that they were very similar. They included the basic principles, spacing, navigation, but they added color, responsive design, type, and type considerations. So I added that to the map. So what I end up with here is a really nice combination of concepts, explanations, and definitions. And you'll see that going through this, I've highlighted the definitions that I've included. This map now contains definitions that will help me study and will help me remember the key words for the course. So you'll see things on here like balance, proportion, spacing, navigation, line length, paragraphing, orientation. All of those are now defined in my own notes just by going through the reading and creating this concept map. So why should you do this? Well, research suggests that students who write notes with paper and a pencil or a pen perform better than those who type their notes on a computer or do not take notes. So statistically, you're going to have better test scores and a better performance overall in the class if you take notes with paper and a pen, if you actually write your own notes. And the reasoning, the guess behind why this is true is that when you type on a computer, you tend to type word for word notes. When you write things out, you're a slow writer. Most people are slow writers. I am too. It's difficult to write out entire sentences, so you end up writing short versions of the information, and that forces you to really pare down the information to the basics. So you might hear me, for example, talk for 10 minutes on a subject, and your notes would just be 4 or 5 lines long because it takes me that long to explain the concept. You're able to then condense it into just a few lines, and by condensing it, you'll be able to remember it better in the future. Now, let's take a look at how this is done. Again, you should write these notes on paper. I always write them out on paper. I have a notebook, and every time I read something, I just open to the last page and I make a concept map. But I'm going to use an online tool. Research suggests this is not the best way to make these maps and to take notes, but it is the best way for me to show you how to do concept mapping, so that's what I'm going to do. Again, you should be writing these out on paper. So I have here on the left a reading from ICOM 101. What is interaction design? And on the right I have my digital mind map, which again is not as good as drawing these concept maps out on paper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by saying what this is. What is interaction design is obviously going to be about interaction design, and then I'm going to sort of read through it. Now, I'm not going to read word for word like you normally would. I've read this multiple times, and I don't want to bore you. So just pretend that I'm sort of reading through this. As I go, I'm going to pull out things that are new information for me. So things that help me understand interaction design. So here, the aim of interaction design is to redress this concern by bringing usability into the design process. In essence, it's about developing interactive products that are easy, effective, and enjoyable to use from the user's perspective. So let's see. Involves usability, and usability involves easy to use, effective, enjoyable to use. Now, it doesn't explain that, but I'm assuming it'll come back to that, so I'm going to leave that on my map. Okay, here we look at what it is, blah, 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 good and poor design. A central concern is to develop interactive products that are usable. So usability, I can say definition. Easy to use. Let's see, here we have learn, effective, provide, enjoyable. So involving usability means easy to learn as well. La, la, la. Keep going. I'm going to go through this because there's not a whole lot here. This is a really great example, but I don't need to include it in my concept map because it's not helping me define interaction design. It's just giving me an example. So I'm going to keep going. And again, you would be reading through this word for word. You know, as you read, make the map. Okay, so now we have what to design. So I'm going to make another concept, what to design. And then this reading tells me that I need to consider the kind of activities people are doing. With the product. I need to consider where they are going to be used. And so I'm just going to keep going. You know, as I read through this, I'm going to sort of create these groups of information. So far, what I've learned about interaction design is involves usability, which is how easy a digital product is to use, or digital design is to use. That can be easy to use, effective, enjoyable to use, and easy to learn, which this reading does come back to later, so I can start filling that in later. And I also learned that interaction design, we have to think about what to design, so we have to consider the activities people are doing when interacting with the product, and then where the products are going to be used. Now, another strategy as you're reading is to use the headers for the readings to help you come up with the concepts. So here, what is interaction design? So I can put a bubble that says what is interaction design, and then they have a definition, so I can put the definition. and I would fill that in completely. In particular, it's about creating user experiences that enhance and extend the way people work. So enhance and extend how people work. And then I can use these headers, the makeup of interaction design. So what is interaction design? I can say, actually I'm going to have to do it from here, makeup. And then I can fill in what I learned in these paragraphs here. And then we have another heading, working together as a multidisciplinary team. So I can say multidisciplinary team. And then, of course, I can explain that. And by the time I'm done with this concept map, I will have a nice little visual representation of what's in the reading. So if I have questions later when I'm thinking about the reading, I don't have to reread it. I can come to my concept map and get some of my questions answered. I'll have definitions in here that I can use. And then if I have another reading, I can see where that other reading fits in here. For example, the same week that you read What is Interaction Design, you read an article about how interaction design has moved from computers as thinking about batch processing to becoming social. So I could add that in here. What do I know about interaction design? Move from, oops, you can't see that. Move from processing to social media. And then I can start to explain that in more detail on my map as well. So creating this map, it's helpful if you can just make one for each week and get all the readings onto it, because it helps you understand how the readings overlap with each other and what areas of, what readings are in alignment with other readings and which are in contrast, which readings disagree with something that you've read previously. So I hope this was helpful, and I hope this is a strategy that you can use. I'd always be willing, of course, to answer any questions you have about how to do this. Honestly, there's no right or wrong way to do this. The goal of this process is to think. It's not to draw. So if you don't have the neatest looking map, that's fine. If you screw something up, it doesn't matter. This is about thinking as you read and recording that thinking on paper. So if you have a little bit of a different way of doing it, that's fine. But I always say, when in doubt, draw it out. If you read something and you feel like you're not understanding or you don't know why it has anything to do with the other readings, draw it out. Use one of these concept maps and see if you can find the relationship.